Okay, so for today we are going to talk about Python list and tuples. So to start with list, we'll first create a new file for list. We go to files, new Python file. We'll name it as list underscore tuples. Okay, .py. Hit enter, and here what we want to talk about is lists. Lists. Okay. Now, what is a list? A list is nothing but it's a collection item that has ordered, changeable, and allows duplicate values. Okay, so what are list? List is ordered, changeable, and allows duplicate values. Okay, and how do we represent it? A list is always denoted within a square bracket. Okay, so we can have a list of any data type. It can be a string, it can be number, it can be boolean, or it can be mix of all. Okay, so there's no hard and fast that it should be of type string or float or something like that, right? So how do you create a list? For creating a list, we'll say list1 is equals to, I'll say, open up square bracket, I'll say 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4. Okay. So this is a list which has integer values in it. Now I can also have another list which can hold string values. Okay, now list2 is equals to, I'll say, apple, or just say abcd. Yeah, okay. Now I can also have a list which is of multiple data types. So I can have list3 which is equals to, I'll say, a comma 2 comma 5.6 comma true. Okay, now if you see these lists, first one is of number types, second one is of string type, the third one has mix of all. So it has a string, it has a decimal, it has a integer, it has a float, and it has a boolean value as well. Okay, so let's take what operations are possible within list scope. Right, now the first thing that we want to start with is how to access it. Right, we have declared a list, how to access it. So accessing is simple, we just have to say print, right? I'll say list1 of which element I want. So it starts with, the indexing starts with 0. So I'll say print index 0, and then I'll use the same statement, and I'll just iterate over other elements also. Right, so I'll say print my 0th index, my first index, and my second index. Now if I run this, what happens? So I'll get 1 2 3 from my list1. Right, now similarly, if we want to print the second list also, we'll use the same way. So we'll say print, instead of list1, we'll give list2 0th index, list2, and list2. Right, let's run this. What do we get? So we get 1 2 3 from the first one and ABC from the second one. Fair enough. Now the next operation we are going to talk is about length operation. Okay. Length operation, how do we do it? So we'll take the same this one. Let's comment this and have these two list with us. Right, we'll use the same list for rest of our demos. So we have list1 and list2. Now let's take, if I want to understand what I mean, if I want to get the length of that particular list, we have an inbuilt function called length, or let's take a variable length. Len1 is equals to length of list1. Right, and if you want to print it, you can just print len1. The other way you can directly print it is print open length of list2. Okay, you can also do it like this. Now let's run this. What do I get? 4 and 4, because it has 4 elements in it. Okay, so the next one we'll talk about is index. index, right? What index does is, I'll use the same list. I'll use the same index list, and then I'll say, okay, I'll give ind is equals to list1 dot index 2, right? And I'll say print, I'll just say print ind and list1 of ind, right? So what it will do, I have given 2 here, right? So it will first go to my list, it will check what is the index of my particular element that I have given as an input. So I have given 2, it will search for the index of 2 and it will return. So while I'm printing it, I'm printing the index and then the particular object there or the values there, right? Let's run this. So what do I get? I get 1 and the second one is 2. So why 1? 1 is because it starts with 0, 0 and 1, right? 0 and 1 here. So this is the value, this is the position 1 and the value is 2, right? Now the same thing, if I want to do it on my list 2, what do I do? I'll again say index 2 is equals to list 2 dot index of, I'll say B, or let's say C, right? C, and I'll say print index 2 and list 2 of index, whatever index is being coming from my index value, right? I'll run this. What it gives me, I searched for C. C was found in the second position. So 0, 1, 2, and the value was C that I was searching for, right? So this is how index works, right? Now, how do you modify your list of elements, right? So we have multiple ways how we can do it. Let's take a look at the first one, right? So we'll go here. We'll say modify elements using the same list. I'll comment this. So using the same list, what I want to do here is, I'll try to add a value here instead of say having 2 here, I'll just write 5 instead of just giving it 2 here, right? So how do I achieve that? So that is also simple. I know the value 2 is on index 1. So I'll just say list 1 of position 2 is equals to 5. Okay. I'll say print list 1. All right. Let's run this. So my list 1 is now updated to 1, 2, 5 and 4, right? Oh, I gave 2 here, but okay. So this is the third position, right? So if I want to do it on the second position, I'll have to pass 1 here. And if we run this, we'll get 1, 5, 3, 4. Okay. So this is how you modify your object, right? Now you can also append new elements also to the list, right? So if you suppose we have this ABCD modify, let me do it here itself, right? I'll say modify elements and append. So how do you append it? You'll go to your list, you'll say list, I'll say we'll add E in the list 2, right? So to do that, what will we write? List 2 dot append, and we'll say append E there and print my list. So if I run this, what will I get? I'll first print the initial list. Now the second time it prints the second list, right? So it was, I initialized it as ABCD, but I appended E at the end, right? So that's how the append action works. Okay. Now if you want to append at a certain position, say we had appended E at the last, right? So we wanted to append E in the second position or third position for that matter. Now, how do I do that? inserting a particular element on a certain position, right? So to do that, we'll say list2 dot insert, right? And at which index do I want to insert? I want to insert it right after B. Okay, so my index would be 0 and 1, right? So I'll say after 1, you insert a value in my list2 saying E, right? Yeah. So here instead of B, it will print E here, and B will be shifted to the next index, right? So to print this, we'll say print list2. I don't want list1. I just print list2. Let's run this. What do I get? A, E, B, C, D, right? So this is how insert works. Now there are other methods also that we'll go through. It's called pop. Pop is nothing but it removes and returns the element at the specified index. Okay. So if you want to if you don't give an index there, if you don't specify the position, it will pop the last element if there is no index specified. If you give an index, it will remove that particular specified index value. Okay, we'll discuss on pop. Let's take the same list, and we'll say list1 dot pop. Okay, and I'm not going to say set any value here. Okay, I'll again say print list1, and in the second list2 dot pop, I'll say pop my second index, right? So to pop the second index, I'll have to write 1 here, correct? Because it starts with 0. So I'm trying to remove B from this one, right? So let's run this. What do I get? So since I gave no parameters here, it popped the last element from my list1. And when I specified I want to remove this particular index of 1, so it removed B from my list. Okay, so this is how you remove a value with specifying some index value or without specifying the index value, right? Now there is another thing called sort. Sort is default. We'll have to sort a list, right? So we don't have to manually write code to sort it. Instead, there is an inbuilt function to it. All right. Now let's take another list here. I'll take list 3, or yeah, list 3 is better. List 3 is equals to, I'll set 1 comma, and just put some random numbers here in random order, so that we'll get to see the list operations in progress. And I'll also keep some duplicates. Okay, so I'll keep 2 as well, right? Okay, so to see sort, we'll say sort we'll say list3 dot sort. Okay, just plain and simple one line, list3 dot sort. And what do I want to do? Print list3. Okay, comment this one. Let's run this. What it gives me? It gives me an sorted list here, right? So this is an ascending value. If you want to do it on a descending value pattern, then what will you write? You'll write list3 dot sort reverse equals true. Sorry, list3. And you'll print it. So first time it will print ascending, second time it will print descending, right? Okay, clear? Now you can also, like, if you have sorted it in this way, you can also reverse it. There is another command to it. You can also say, if you don't want to run the sort command again, just have this, or just instead of, I'll comment it. You can also write it this way: list3 dot reverse. List3, yeah, and you can print list3. Now if you run it, you'll get the same thing, right? Because it's a sorted array. Initially it was not a sorted array, we have sorted it in ascending, we have reversed it, and we are printing, right? Now, next thing we are going to talk about, how do you merge two lists? Okay, so merging is again same as a keyword called extend. Extend. So to understand this, we'll say list 1 is equals to 1, 2, 3. List 2 is equals to 4, 5, 6. Okay. Now, what we'll write? We'll write list 1 dot extend list 2. Okay. And we'll say print list 1. So what we're trying to do, we are trying to extend list 1 by adding list 2's value. Okay, if you run this, what will I get? I'll get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is one way. You can also do it in this way. So if you don't want to store it as a different list variable, you can also say list 1 dot extend, instead of writing L2 here, because I'm already extending L2, right? So I can again go here and I can set my value here in a list format. I can write whatever next value I want to extend it with. So I'll just run this. What happens? Oh, I'm not printing it. So I'll say print list 1. So what happens here? It will extend those values as well. So you can have it in a list variable, or you can just directly write it in square brackets. It's the same thing. Okay. Now the next one that we are going to talk about is the count. Right. Okay. So let's say I have a duplicate here, right? So yeah, I'll use this list. All right. So if I have to see the count demo, right? So we'll take the same list here. List, I'll name it as list 1 as these values. And what count does? So count returns the number of occurrence of a specified element in my list, right? So if you see 2 is repeated here twice, right? So I'll try to get the count of 2. So I'll say count is equals to list 1 count is equals to list 1 dot count the value of 2. All right, and I'll say print count. Let's run this. So it gives me 2. Okay, now again it's the same thing. I'll set 6 also. Okay, I'll give, now 6 occurs thrice in my list, right? So I'll say give me the count of 6. Give me the count of 6. Let's run. So it says 3. It occurs 3 times in my list, right? Now this was about count. The next one that we are going to talk about is clear. So these are all type of operations that you can perform on a list object. It's advisable that you understand what it does and you always remember, because these things should be very handy when you are dealing with lists. So practice more on these particular methods. Try to play around with different or multiple lists here. That will help you to understand more, or to get you a better grip on what you are doing on lists, right? Okay, moving on to clear. Okay, I have the same list. So what clear does? So clear will directly clear my list. It will remove all the elements from it. So I'll say list 1 dot clear, right? And I'll print list 1. What it will give? It will give me an empty list, right? Because it cleared all the elements inside it, right? And if you want to remove a certain element here, right? If you want to remove certain based on the index, so how do we do it? So let's take, so we have a different keyword for it. It's called remove, right? So this was clear. The next is remove. So remove will remove the index, specified index values, right? So I'll say list1 dot remove. Okay. And what do I want to remove? Say I want to remove the value 6. Okay, I want to remove all the 6 in my list. Oh, I'll say list1 dot remove 6, and I'll print my list. What it will print? So it will remove the first occurrence of 6 from my list. Okay. Okay. So this remove removes the first occurrence of the particular element from my list. Now, if you want to remove all of it, so if you just go by whatever is here, whatever methods that we talked about, so if you want to remove all the occurrence of 6, what will we have to do? We'll have to get the count of 6, how many times it's occurring. We'll try to keep a loop here using the number of occurrence, and we'll then run this particular step the number of times 6 is present. So it would be the count of it, right? And we'll then try to print it. Okay, that's one way that how you can remove all the occurrence of a particular object. But there are other more efficient ways also. We'll talk about that later, right? So for now, just remember that remove will remove the first occurrence of a particular uh, object or the particular element, right? Okay. Next one, moving on. So next is the list keyword. List, right? Right. Now, what this means? This means if I have a value, right, I'll say variable 1 is equals to name, right? And I'll say variable 2 is equals to name. Okay, so the first one is string, second one is list, right? Now if I want to print, I'll set the type, right? Type of variable 1. What is it? It is string. Now the second one is list. Now the third one, what I will do here is I'll say print list of variable 1. And so what it will do, and also I want the type as well. I'll say type of what I'm doing here. This is called typecasting. So I am typecasting my variable 1 as list, and then I am checking whether it is a list value or a string value, right? So if I run this, what will I get? I'll get string, list, and list, right? Why? Because I typecasted my name to string. I'm sorry, my string variable to list here. So automatically this particular variable is typecasted as list again here. Cool. So this is how you say if you want to create a new list. So how will you do with existing variables? You'll just have to typecast it by writing list in front of it, right? And you open a bracket after it, right? Okay. Okay. And the last one that we have here is again delete. We have talked about it, right? We were deleting variables. So the same thing is applicable here also. So let's say we have a list, okay, and we'll say delete list 1. I want to delete the whole list, right? So I'll delete the whole list. Okay. So if I run this and I'll try to print list, right? So it should throw me some exception. right? Because it says list 1 is not defined. Reason being, because I have deleted it. Now you can also use this delete keyword to delete based on the index as well, right? So I didn't comment this one. Let's comment this. We printed out this one. Yeah. So if you want to delete that, how will you do it? So instead of just writing the whole list, say you want to delete the first index here, or I mean the second index. So I'll write 1 here because 0 and 1. So I'll say I want to delete this 2, which is on my second index. So I'll write 1 here and I'll see what it prints. So if I run this, it deletes 2 from here and it just prints 1 and 3. So you can use delete also to remove the elements based on the index, right? Okay. Okay. One more concept here that I want to talk about is shallow versus deep copy, right? So these will be useful while you are scripting in your Python. I mean, not scripting, but while you are developing your test cases in Python, right? So shallow versus deep copy. Yeah. Shallow versus deep copy. Now to do this, I'll say I'll write original list. Original list is equals to, I'll keep list of list. Okay, I'll keep list of list here, comma 456. Yeah, I don't want this. I'll just keep 456. Okay. Now, if I say I want to do a shallow copy, so I'll name my list as shallow underscore copy is equals to shallow underscore copy is equals to copy dot copy original list. Okay. And if I want to do a deep copy, I'll say deep dot copy is equals to copy dot deep copy of original list, right? Now what happens if we try to modify something after we have done a copy, and if we try to modify something from the original list, what happens? So let's take, so this is a two-dimensional list. Okay, so we'll have to access it using two-dimensional values. So we'll say original list of, say, 0. What happened here? 1 second. Original list of 0 and 0. 0 0 is equals to, I'll set it to a new value saying x, right? Now what I will do, I will then print all my lists. I am printing original list, shallow copy list, and deep copy list. Okay. So what happens here? So if you see here, I'm doing a shallow copy. What shallow copy will do? It will just copy the object references. It will still point to my original list itself, right? So if there is a change in my original list, the copied list is also updated. But if you do a deep copy, it creates its own reference and it stores it as a different variables, right? So when I'm doing this exchange, it should not be reflected in my deep copy, but this x value should be reflected in both my original list and my copied list, right? So let's see what the output is. Okay. Okay, so the first one that I'm printing is original list. So original list has the x value here. Shallow copy I'm printing, it also has the x value, and in the deep copy it's still intact and it's pointing to the original list that we have. Okay. So this was one that I wanted to talk. And what else we want to discuss here? I think I've covered almost everything. Yeah, there's one more thing that it's good to know for you. So it's more like if you want to generate a list by your own, right? So if it's not being generated, you can also use a loop, or you can also use a conditional statement to generate your list. Say I want a list of a list to have exponential values starting from 0 to 5 or 0 to n numbers, right? So how will you create a list like that? So I'll say squares, right? squares is equals to, I'll say x to the power 2. You remember, right? We have talked about it. Double star is for power, right? So I will say for x in range. So we want until what number? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So for 5, we'll give range as 6 because it will run until range -1, correct? This is my list which is generated using a loop. Now I'll just print it. And if you want to also check it, you can also check the type of it. So I'll say print the type of SQ. Because we have square brackets, so it's clear and understood that it's going to be a list. But again, I'll print the type as well. So let's command the initial one. Run this. It's not, range is not scriptable. Why is it not scriptable? Because I gave the square bracket here. So it should be a round bracket and 6. 6. Okay. So what it gives me? It gives me 0 to the power 2, 1 to the power 2, 2 to the power 2, 3 to the power 2, 4 to the power 2, and 5 to the power 2. Okay. Clear. So this is all I think we wanted to talk on list, right? And the next thing that we are going to discuss is tuples. So tuples are tuples don't have these many operations in it because tuples are usually created once and you cannot modify, add or remove elements from tuples, right? So let's again try to create a tuple and we'll see what all operations are possible. So creating a tuple is simple. So I'll write my underscore tuple. My tuple is equals to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? If I want to access the elements or if I want to print it, I'll just say print my tuple. And if I want to print the type of it, we'll say print type of my tuples, right? Run it. So, okay, let's comment this one. Run it. I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the class is tuples, right? Simple. Accessing the objects is again the same way how we do it in list, right? So say accessing I'll do the same tuples and we'll say print my tuple. What do you want? The same. You have to set an index value. So I want my second index value to be printed here, right? So sorry, second should be 1, but I want my third values, right? So when I say 2, it would start 0, 1, and it would start as 0, 1, and 2, right? So let's run this. What do I get? I get 3 in my output because I'm printing the third position because I'm specifying the index as 2 because it starts with 0. Clear? So this is how you access a tuple. And what else is possible with it? What else? This was accessing. We also have length. We'll use the same tuple. How do you write length? We talked about it, right? So we'll say print length of my tuple, and that's it. You can also take this particular variable in this particular operations in a variable and then print it in a print statement using a different variable declaration, but I just did it in just one statement. So it says 5. 5 is the element count of it. All right. Now the next one is max and min, right? So we'll have max and min. Okay. So I'll use the same tuple 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we'll see what max and min does here, right? So we'll say maximum is equals to max of my tuple minimum is minimum of my tuple, and we'll also say we'll add sum as well, right? And sum, we'll say sum is equals to sum of my tuples, right? Now we'll print it. Print, we'll use a f string. We'll set maximum is maximum. Next is minimum, and then the sum. All right. Now if we run this, what do I get? Now it prints maximum is 5, minimum is 1, and sum of it is 15. Okay. So these are all inbuilt functions for tuples, right? So you won't see much of operations like pop and all those things in this. Because you cannot append, you cannot edit a tuple, right? So those operations is not possible in tuples, right? But if you want to, in case if you want to edit a tuple, there is a way how we can do it. I'll talk about it towards the end. Okay. First, let's complete whatever we wanted to discuss here first, right? So we have talked about sum. The next thing that we are going to talk about is again sorting. Okay. Now what does sorting do here? I'll again have my tuples is equals to. I'll just remove a few values and put it here and there. Let's let it be like this. Let's say 40 0.5 as well. Okay. Now I'll say sorted list is sorted tuple is equals to sorted of tuple, and I'll print it, right? Let's try and print this. So it sorts my tuple in an ascending order and it prints it, right? Same as how we have done in list, correct? All right. So if you want to reverse it, again, you'll use the same thing and you'll just give the command as reverse equals true, right? I'll say reverse equals true, right? And we'll run this. So this is ascending, this is descending. Now the next thing that we want to check here is we'll try to check the type of these particular sorted tuples that we are getting. Okay. So we'll say print type of sorted tuple, right? Type of sorted tuples. Let's run this. What it prints. Now you see the difference here, right? We were trying to sort the tuple and then we were expecting a tuple out of it. But if you see, they are in square brackets, which is a list reference. Now, why does this happen? The only reason is because sorting cannot happen on a mutable object, right? We have talked about it here, right? When we tuples are mutable, you cannot edit it, so you cannot change the positions as well. However, when we try to do it in this way, it it tries to change, it typecasts the tuple object as a list and perform the list operation here, right? So if you see, we have sort in list, but we have sorted in tuples. So sorted is a keyword which will again typecast it to a list value, sort it, and you'll get the output. Now to again keep it as a tuple, what you have to do, you have to write a keyword here. You'll say, you'll again typecast it, right? You'll typecast it back to tuple. I want to store this value as a tuple, not okay. Okay, so this let's okay, sorted tuple 1, and I'll print sorted tuple 1 here. So this is my sorted tuple, and I'll also print the type of print type of sorted tuple 1. Now if you see the first one, the sorted tuple value, the tuple 1 value will have a type of tuples, whereas sorted tuple will just be a list value. So what should I get? I'll get the same output. I'll have the first class as list, the second one should be tuple because I'm typecasting it. Let's see, right? Now it's clear, right? If you see, now it is changed back to a tuple because it has a round bracket reference rather than square brackets. So you have the first one is listed as list, the second one is listed as tuple. Correct? So similarly, if you want to make some additions or if you want to do some changes in your tuples, you have to typecast it back to list, do your changes, and again typecast it to a tuples. But that's not recommended. If you are going to change the values of tuples, there is no meaning to it declaring it as a tuple. You can declare it as a list, right? So to make it very clear, like where do you use tuples, right? So tuples are basically used when the data does not change, like the coordinates or the days of the weeks, right? So these are something which will never change. So tuples are I'm sorry, did I write immutables here? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Immutable. So tuples are immutable, right? I wrote it as mutable. I just recollected that I was speaking wrong. So since they are immutable as in they cannot be changed, right? So since they are immutable, so we are going to use it only where the data does not change, right? So like the coordinates or the days of the week. And since they are, and also if you are going to use tuples have a slighter better performance than list objects. Okay, so choose your data type wisely when you are trying to program your script, right? Whether you have to use a list, a tuple. Okay, now you can also use a concatenation operation in tuples. So concatenation is also simple. Okay, so next thing that we talk about is merging or concatenating tuples. Merging or concatenating. So I'll say my tuple 1 and my tuple 2. Let's change the value to more decent ones. I'll say 1, 2, 3, and here I'll have 4, 5. Just 4, 5. Okay. So I'm trying to concatenate them. So simple plus operation that we'll give here, and we will print it. Right? I don't want everything. I'll say print. I'll say f. I'll say merged tuple is tuple 3, right? Now since tuples are immutable and you cannot change or edit anything, what happens is when you try to merge or when you try to concatenate this, right? So it's going to create a new reference every time you are going to perform operation here or you are doing something variables here. It's not going to modify tuple 1 or tuple 2. Instead it will create a new variable reference for tuple 3, right? Now check, and now let's check here what happened. To check that, we'll say print. I want to check the id of each of it, right? I'll check what is the id of my tuple 3, what is the id of my tuple 1, what is the id of my tuple 2, right? And all of these will be different, correct? Now let's print this. Let's run this. Let's run. Right? So if you see, they are all different addresses and the merge tuple is created, right? The merge tuple is a merge version of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, correct? And we have 3 different addresses for 3 different tuples. Okay. And one last thing on tuples, you can also unpack the values of a tuple, right? So if you have, say, my tuple is 1 2 3. Now you want to unpack these values to individual variables. So you just have to write the variable names a, b, and c. I know there are 3 variables, so I'll just give 3 variables is equals to my tuple, and next I'll print a, b, and c. Right? What will I get? I'll get these values which was in tuples. It will be unpacked into different variables. So if I run this, what will I get? I'll get 1 2 3. The same. It is unpacked. Now, say I don't know the variable numbers, and I'll just type another variable here, that expecting that I'll get the fourth value as well, right? So I'll say print d. What will it give? So it will throw me an error saying that it's not able to find this particular element. It is expecting three. It is expecting 4, but receiving 3 of elements, right? We run this. Not enough values to unpack. Expected 4, got 3, right? So only when you know that I'm going to get certain number of values from a tuples, then only you can use this technique to unpack a tuple, or you can just iterate a tuple, store it in some list object, or rather keep a object reference, say my tuple of 0, my tuple of 1, something like that, right? Okay, so that's all I wanted to talk in list and tuples. In the next one, we'll take set and dictionary objects. Okay, all right then. Thanks, guys.